Good evening, everyone. How are you? Excuse me. Flake and cheers. Nothing quite tastes as good as the first one, does it? Yes, indeed. Here we are again. It's Friday. It's 5 o'clock. And a certain vintage of gentlemen will probably be shouting Crackerjack. TV game show that was on in the 70s and 80s in the UK. For anybody who doesn't get that reference, it was always on Friday at 5 o'clock. Anyway, let's see who we've got in. It's been a hectic one today, I don't mind admitting. Johnny Random was first in. Congratulations, Johnny. Then we've got Lux 84, or is it Lux 84? Excuse me if I'm butchering your pronunciation there, mate. David Evans, then Craig Stamen. How are you, Craig? Peter Collins, Michael Palmer, Dave Lewis, Vincent Brennan, Isambard Celery. Now there's a name to conjure with. And Stephen Tatton, and David Evans, Phil, Deco Dude, Dave Lewis, Edwin Toonan, Scott Guitars, evening Dan, and who else we got in? Anton, how are you, mate? Chip Young, I got your email, Chip, thank you, mate. I just haven't had a chance to respond yet. If anybody's interested in a rather nice guitar stand, then get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with Chip, because he's got one that is surplus to requirements, and maybe we can facilitate a transaction here. Anyway, then we've got Vince Bangs, evening Vince, and who else we got? Scrolling down. You've been having a proper chinwag while you've been waiting for me, haven't you? I see we've got Budget Guitar Show. Here's Johnny. How are you, John? Johnny. Mick Brooks, Patrick Becker, 60s man Chris Otterwell, Pablo Hankson, Rob Bald, Ian Rouse, and where are we? Steve Lamb, Dr. Gomez, Bob Contreras. How are you, Bob? And I think that about catches everybody. Brad Matthews is in. Danny Hancock. There's more of you keep appearing. Cornucopia, Nightwish Lover. No Aussie yet. I don't think I've seen him in the chat. He doesn't crop up as much these days. Always welcome when you do, though, Aussie. Phil B, Glenn John, Das Schaff, and who else we've got? Phil Leatham, Grandpa Joe, John Channing, Derek Summer, Rexomatic, and Vintage Tone, and Michael Dodds, Joel Campen, Bass at Night. I apologise if I missed you off there. I was trying to scroll through the names and be as comprehensive but as quick as possible. So apologies if I didn't name check you there. But yes, here we are again. It is nice to be back. As I say, it's been a hectic day today. I was where are we now? Just gone 5 o'clock. Just over half an hour ago, I was still in the waiting room at the vets with the dog. He's all right. He's just got a little bit of a tummy bug, and so we had to hightail it back here. And much to his disgust, actually, because there were plenty of lamp posts and gate posts and post boxes that went unsniffed, which was a massive affront to him. But we had to get back. I did try explaining it to him, but they say border collies are an intelligent breed, but you know what? Sometimes it skips a generation. It did with ours, anyway. Anyway, I'd better tell you what I've got coming up on the channel this week. And normally I have a list, but unfortunately, I haven't a chance to make that list. So you're just going to have to bear with me while I studio and remind myself of what videos we've got coming up this week. I had a little bit of burst today, probably very late to the party. I finally got my hands on a Positive Grid Spark amp, and you know, it's sort of confirmed what I've been thinking about for ages. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a play with it for about an hour, and you know, it was, it was fine. I enjoyed the sounds out of it, but there was just so many things on there that I thought, you know what, I'm probably never going to use that feature. You know, like the whole sort of the plethora of amp models and effects that I'm never, like certainly the effects that I'm never going to end up using, and like the jam tracks and everything that are built into it. It kind of just reinforced what I was thinking. I'm kind of, maybe if I bought one, I would have found a way of justifying it. But you know, it's yeah, a nice sounding amp, but you know, a bit too many bells and whistles that I wouldn't use. I would be paying for and wouldn't use. So, if you see what I mean. Anyway, yes, I've got my list of videos that are coming up in the week. Shall I tell you what they are? I might as well. Coming up on Monday, as usual, we have the usual solo analysis. This is one that I've been asked for a few times over the past few months, actually. A little bit of J.J. Cale. We're doing the solo from Call Me the Breeze. Then on Tuesday, the usual top 5 slot, we've got 5 pieces of music, 5 songs or pieces of music that are so strongly associated with their use in a particular movie or TV show that many people discovered them from that movie or TV show. So see if you can think of any likely candidates that would crop up on that list. Then Wednesday is usually when I do the sort of lesson-y kind of content. And this week is no exception. We are looking at what goes through my mind as I'm playing a solo. Basically, I play a solo and then I sort of do, you know, like when these movie directors, when you buy the DVD and you get like the sort of the director's commentary along with it. I tried watching those once. It was just, no, it was so distracting. Hopefully this won't be distracting. Basically trying to get you inside here, which is a disturbing place to be at the best of times, so you can kind of understand what's going through my head as I'm playing a solo. That is Wednesday's lesson. Then on Thursday, a video I was talking about last week. You know, I've been weighing up whether or not to you know, as well, in addition to using like bias amp and guitar rig and various other bits and pieces for me guitar tones, been weighing up whether or not to, you know, get myself a little small wattage valve amp, tube amp if you prefer, and, you know, kind of mic it up or go with the like a load box kind of situation or solution rather, and start kind of maybe getting some tones that way. And Thursday is the video all about that, and you'll find out which way I decide to jump on that. I was genuinely undecided when I first started making that video, and I came to a decision as I was putting the video together. So stay tuned for that. And then, as you know, it's after Thursday, it's Friday, and we're back on the beer again. So let's take a look at what's been going on in the chat since I've been blethering away there. Ozzy's been working, has he? Well, yes, it's what's that saying? Work is the curse of the drinking classes, isn't it? Hey John from Arizona, says Ed Atkinson. Nice to have you here, Ed. Michael from Stockton, yes. So what we've been talking about in the chat, John York, Crackerjack reference. One of the hosts, Leslie Crowther, was Phil Lynnett's father-in-law. I knew that, yes, indeed. I was more of an Ed Stewart era viewer of Crackerjack, though, it has to be said. So Ozzy was here last week. He was indeed. So let's have a look. Looks like Rob's been getting himself a new guitar. Epiphone Les Paul 1960s Tribute in Bourbon Burst, 380 plus 20 quid plus. That's not bad. That's not a bad price for those Epiphones. John, soon the stream be taken up by naming everyone in the chat. I do try and be as brief as possible, but I just know that if I won't name the individual, but I forgot to name him in the chat one week when I was reading off the register at the beginning of the stream, and oh dear me, didn't have to give me a telling off in an email later. Oh, thank you, Brad. Yeah, poor doggy. Hope he gets better. He's made of stern stuff, is our dog. The thing that lets him down is the fact that he's basically a four-legged, furry walking dustbin. And, you know, many's the time you have him, well, not on the beach at the moment because it's a bit dicey taking dogs for walks on the beach at the moment. If you've read anything in the news, there's a lot of dogs coming down ill with that sort of stuff. So we haven't been on the beach, but nevertheless, we live at the seaside. So wherever you go, there's crab shells and seashells and stuff all over the place. And he'll be off the lead chasing his frisbee, and and then suddenly you hear this crunching noise, and you thought, "What have you eaten?" And you haven't a clue. Mind you, he got a live crab once, and he didn't know because it was wriggling a bit. He didn't know what to do with it, so he dropped it, and this crab was off like the Stig. It was getting the hell out of Dodge straight away. It didn't need a second warning. But yeah, he is basically a scavenging little so-and-so. So that is, I suspect, what's at the bottom of his dodgy tummy. Chip saying you had your Spark 6 months and still haven't got to grips with it. Are you going to review the Spark, John? It's not for me, Yamaha THR any day. Yeah, well, I've got the Yamaha THR, Anton. I'm not going to review the Spark, because, you can't move on YouTube for reviews of Spark. I don't think I could add anything to what people have already said about it. I'm a bit late, well, massively late to the party on it anyway, and it doesn't belong to me. The Spark amp doesn't belong to me. It belongs to a student of mine who, bless him, he's not the most IT savvy chap. He comes from a different era. He's an older gentleman. But he wanted the best practice amp for his guitar that money could buy, and the guy in the shop sold him the Spark. So I was kind of showing him how it kind of configures with his phone and everything, and getting the app kind of linked up and everything. So and having a good old play with it today. And as I said, I was impressed with the sounds, but it's just like, I've got those sounds anyway because I've got, positive grid bias amps. So, yeah, do I really need all of that stuff again, plus a load of stuff I'm probably not going to use? So, no, I'm not going to be doing a review of it. Looking forward to John's H7 review, but I can see he's gassing for the Sire T7 White Telecaster. I am indeed, but... the thing is, January is the month when you've got to get your tax return in by, isn't it? And I've got to get that done by the end of the month. I'm planning on spending a fun day on Sunday, kind of wading through that. And once I've got my tax return out of the way, I will know what sort of tax bill I have to pay, and I will know what sort of funds I can free up to spend on new toys for myself. But yes, the H7 review is imminent. That's what I'll kind of tell you about that. Hi John, Happy New Year. Love your show and chat. Well, thank you, Tim. You're a gentleman. Excuse me, I'm just about to swig my ale off and then replenish the supply. In case anybody's interested, it is just the bog standard 4% cooking lager tonight, Carling. It's what? Well, it's basically 4%, which means that you can have, an evening on it and not kind of end up in a kind of messy kind of state by the end of the evening. Let's see if we can get a decent flake on this one. Everybody get ready to type Flake. Come on. Oh, that's a good one, isn't it? It's a very flake beer, is Carling, I find. Look at that. Ridiculous. Speaking as when I used to occasionally do a bit of bar work, it was always a nightmare to draw from a pump as well. But it's 4%, and Morrison's had it on offer, so there you go. We're talking about. I know what to say. We're talking about tunes which are and songs which are kind of synonymous with their use in TV shows, and people saying yeah, okay, I've got a few of the Flake comments. People saying Airwolf. God, I'd forgotten entirely about that show. And it's didn't they try Eye of the Tiger, Rocky 3? Was that Rocky 3 or was it Rocky 2? I can't remember. Nantucket Sleigh Ride by Mountain was introduced to me by Weekend World in the 70s. I remember it well. Kieran's in. How are you, Kieran? I'm just looking to try and find some of these comments. Anton saying, Psst, Dave Clark, Def Leppard solo, please. Pest about. I think you mean Steve Clark. I have one in the pipeline, mate. I've got about 7 solo videos all stacked up and ready to go. And the Steve Clark one is one of them, I promise you. So that is coming. Where are we done? Please, John, TM300 in a pedal chain. Yes, well, that is coming pretty soon as well. The TM300, in case you don't know, there's this one. This rather nice little Behringer tube amp model, which is apparently a knockoff, a clone, a copy, call it what you will, of a Sans amp pedal of some description or other. So yes, I'm going to be doing a pedal board with Behringer pedals, or not necessarily Behringer pedals, but budget pedals, which I suspect will mean they'll probably all be Behringers. And it's basically going to be, a kind of bacon saver, a safety net, kind of pedal board, the kind of thing that you can put together quite cheaply. And just, if your amp goes down in the middle of a gig, you can just plumb this into the PA and get through to the end of the gig, like sort of, in case of emergency, break out this pedal board sort of thing. So I'm going to be doing something like that, and then putting it together, showing you what it sounds like and talking about the pedals and everything like that, and probably doing some sort of giveaway on that. Maybe a Zoe's Place kind of thing. I haven't fully thought it through yet, but that is a video that will probably be coming up in February sometime, I imagine, around about then. I'm currently in the process of doing February's scheduling February's videos. Another thing I need to mention, I forgot to mention it last week, the blues masterclass is on again, as I'm sure many of you know. There are still some places left for this one. It's happening on the 30th of January, 30th of this month. 12 noon UK time, so whatever that means for wherever you are in your part of the world. I'm doing the last one was on a Sunday as well, and I started that at 10 a.m. and it was a little bit harsh on some of the stateside participants, because they were getting up at ridiculous hours of the morning. And I just want to say a massive thank you to the people who got up and set the alarm ridiculously early and got up and joined me for that. It's going to be about 4.5, maybe pushing 5 hours of tuition on everything you need to know about playing electric blues lead guitar, right from the basics all the way up to, you know, kind of sophisticated Robin Ford, Josh Smith, Larry Carlton style blues playing. It's got loads of tabs. I think there's 6 solos that we go through in that time, all tabbed out, videos of me playing them, and and all that sort of stuff, jam tracks, and all manner of great stuff. And it's taking place on Zoom on the 30th of January. So it's £75 if you're not a Patreon supporter, and it is £50 if you are a Patreon supporter. As I say, there's still a few places left, so get your booking in now. I'll put the link in the chat actually for how you can pay for your place on the masterclass. Excuse me. See if I can do this without any typos, and no, I can't because I've just done one there. Oh, I hate typing. Right, let me just check that. So yes, I think I've typed that correctly. So that is the URL I've just put in the chat there for the Blues Masterclass. As I say, £75 for non-Patreon supporters, £50 for Patreon supporters. It's a big lot of fun. It really is. And you also get a video recording of the entire class to watch again as many times as you want, kind of afterwards, so you can kind of revise as much as you want. Now let me just any advice on keeping band morale up after a disastrous first concert? Oh, yeah. That's just basically onwards and upwards, just you've learned lessons. It happens. I mean, apparently Free wrote All Right Now in that exact situation, sat in a dressing room after an absolutely awful, woeful gig, when they just felt like chucking the towel in, and it was like a case of, well, that's over and it's all right now, so, and that eventually became the song, so great things can come out of bad situations. You've just got to put it behind you, and grow a thick skin and grow from it, really. You can't really sugar the pill and say, oh yeah, well, it wasn't that bad. If it was bad, it was bad, and you just have to think about, well, why was it bad, and how can we make sure it's not that bad again? And if that means getting your backsides into the rehearsal room and really tightening up those endings, or just thinking, well, yeah, we've put a load of effort and work into getting that song that we all love all kind of perfect, and then it just died on its ass in front of the audience, then I'm sorry, but that song has to kind of, well, it doesn't have to go immediately, but it's kind of on probation, and that for me was always the thing in bands. People got too precious about the songs that they'd kind of lobbied to have put in the set. And, you could see that it was just, you'd start playing it and the room would empty and the tumbleweed would start blowing across the room. And, you say to the bass player or whoever, the singer or whoever it was, we need to drop that song. Oh, yeah, but that's the only one that I've got left in the set. Well, think about, put the band first above your own ego, yes, Ian's saying that John Robson typos a must-have in a lesson. Yes, for those of you unfortunate souls who have guitar lessons off me, who put up with me weekly, I do a lot of screen sharing and typing up, kind of notes on screen so that you can, it's like a teacher writing on a blackboard, basically. Do they still have blackboards these days? Probably not. But and there's always typos, and sometimes they even get spotted. Ah, yes. BBC snooker theme was called Drag Racer by Studio G. Is the only place I've ever heard that song. It's fun to play, though. I know the tune you mean, mate. I did hear a rumour, and I can't, don't quote me on this, it might not be true or not, but I did hear a rumour that was Jeff Whitehorn who played that guitar part. Jeff Whitehorn is, session player, martial demonstrator extraordinaire. What you're saying there. Hi John, liked your vid on practice, although I find if I leave the guitar on stand for a couple of days, it infuses me, maybe because 7 days bogs me down. I think what you're saying there basically is absence makes the heart grow fonder, which is true. I know on the rare occasions when me and the missus get a chance to go on holiday, which we haven't done since, dear me, 2015 was the last time we got away. No, I think 2017 or around about then. It's been a few years. Anyway, we usually go away for a week or so. And I don't take a guitar with me. I'm like a smackhead. I'm like a heroin junkie. Waiting to get home and get a plectrum in my hand and kind of play again. Yeah. So somebody in the chat there once said, AC/DC came back from bad times as well, and didn't they just? Yeah. So it's often, I think, possibly a good test of a band is to have a bit of a rough start, because if you've got, anything about you, if you've got any kind of team spirit, camaraderie, and, a vibe going on, that is when it will be forged. And, I think I noticed this actually with a similar thing with guitar students. There are some people who really have to graft at it and work at it from day one. And everything takes a lot of work to get done. And then there are some people who just sail through it. They coast. But at some point, everybody comes up against something that is like a real massive hurdle that they struggle to get past. As I say, the plodders and the grafters, the people who have to kind of just grind on through and kind of make hard work of it, when, they will eventually come to something that is like especially hard. And the people who, kind of coast the way through and then suddenly they come up against something that's really hard. The ones who tend to kind of do the best under those situations are the grinders and the plodders, the people who just got used to having that work ethic of, kind of pushing on through and working at it. The people who've found it easy up to that point often get dispirited when they come up against something that is, oh, well, I didn't realize it was going to be this hard. And I've seen it a few times, despite my best efforts, people who are capable guitarists that have a bit of a hurdle that they just struggle to get past will lose interest and give up. And it's always, I'm not giving up, but yeah, well, actually you are, aren't you? And I think that's the same with bands. If you have an easy time of it from the outset, then when the inevitable difficult gig or kind of difficulties do turn up, then it's you've not really kind of been tested up to that point, and who knows what might happen. Oh dear me, Ron, you're going back a bit there, aren't you, mate? From the same era as Crackerjack. Anyone remember Jukebox Jury? The theme Hit and Miss is a gem from guitarist Vic Flick. Yes. And that is it is actually. I don't remember the show. It was a little bit before my time. I remember the reboot of it in I think the the early 90s, hosted by Jules Holland, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, tortoise and hare, says John B. That's what I was trying to say in a very long-winded way, wasn't it? Yeah, the thing about Vic Flick, he's, obviously, I don't know if you know, but he's the guitar player who did the original, that twangy, James Bond guitar part, in all the Bond movies. That is his real name, Vic Flick. And, what kind of sense of humour did his parents have? Picture the scene in the maternity ward, and, so Mr. and Mrs. Flick, what are you going to call your newborn son? It's like one of my students, great lad, called Dave. He hasn't been for a while because he moved away, but he's a middle-aged chap, kind of teenage daughter, and his daughter's boyfriend, and I promise you this is true, his daughter's boyfriend is called Robin Banks. I mean, come on. But yeah, Vic Flick, he was on, I don't know if any of you watch Pawn Stars, PAWN Stars, about the pawn shop in, Las Vegas. He turned up, was it him there who turned up, or was it, it was definitely him. He turned up selling like his Strat that he'd played that iconic James Bond theme on, and that thing should be in a museum, that guitar. And obviously, must have fallen on hard times to be selling a guitar that iconic. But yeah. Anyway, let's see what else has been going on in the chat while I've been blethering away. Pawn Stars lost money when they sold Vic Flick's Strat. Really? Let's have a look. Oh, Colin's in. How are you, Colin? I actually went to school with Jimmy Riddle. Seriously, he used to get the pee taken out of him all the time. Indeed, yes. For American viewers, Jimmy Riddle is just an old-fashioned British colloquialism for basically going for a pee, basically having urinating. That is, you're going for a Jimmy Riddle. The Strat wasn't used on the Bond movie. Sorry, Phil. I do stand corrected. I see we're going for names here. Mr. and Mrs. Wall Carpeting and their son Walter. Day 10 of man flu and it's finally easing. Yeah, I've had a bit of a sniffle, as you can probably tell from my voice. Lately, it is just a good old fashioned non-pandemic bit of man flu. So it's I'm not unclean, as it were, but it's just it's you just grind on through it, don't you? At least I do. I have to, because I'm too bloody busy to be poorly, to be honest with you. I went to school with Cheggers and his twin bro. Okay, as in Keith Chegwin. Bloody hell! What? He's no longer with us, is he? My mum knew a Merry Christmas. Dear me, it's just like what goes through some people's heads when they're naming the kids. Either that or it's a sense of humor. It's the old boy named Sue kind of thing again, isn't it? One of my son-in-law's mates is called Paul Mattit. I used to have a real job many years ago, 30 years ago last year, I stopped working for a living and started doing, guitar nonsense to pay the bills. But back when I had a real job, when I was in my early 20s, I was a quality assurance engineer for Tabuchi Electric UK Limited, long since defunct company. Anyway, basically what we used to do was we used to make bits and pieces for the electronics industry, and a lot of our stuff used to go into Sharp video recorders, VCRs, VHS machines. And I used to have to do a lot of liaising with the rep from Sharp, whose name was Andrew Anker. Andrew Anker, there you go. Steve Hoggerton, how are you, mate? And the thing was, he was a fool to himself, Mr. Anker, because he could easily kind of took the sting out of Andrew Wanker by calling himself Andy Anker, but he didn't. He hated being called Andy. No, it's Andrew. Well, fair enough, mate. On your head be it. Frank Zappa's daughter was called Moon Unit, Time Prophet, although she just goes by Moon these days. She was provided the voice on I think one of Frank's best songs, most humorous songs, Valley Girl. Oh dear me, Steve, are you booze free? Are you doing the dry January thing? Well, I think I can pretty much, kind of demonstrate my thoughts on dry January, to be honest with you. To me, that whole phenomenon of dry January is just a latter-day manifestation of the sort of Oliver Cromwell streak of Puritanism that runs right through the English psyche. It's like, a case of how can, if it's fun, if it's enjoyable, if it's, people like it, then let's kind of shame people out of doing it. This is going to be a good one. Look at this one. Oh, this is perfect, isn't it? I can't even get that all in. Flake, massive flake there. But yeah, there's that kind of sense amongst some people, isn't there, that it's like, how can we make January even more miserable? Everybody's skint because they've spent all the money on Christmas. It's dark, it's cold, it's dreek, it's miserable, and it's depressing, and you're back at work after the Christmas break, and it's all a big anticlimax. How can we make it more miserable? I know, we'll tell people that they shouldn't be having a beer. Well, I've decided once again not to participate. My wife did dry January and lasted 2 days. Frank's son is called Dweezil. Yes. I don't know if it was on the BBC years ago, back in the days when I still used to watch the BBC, which I tend not to these days, but that's another story. Yeah, the gig Zappa Plays Zappa, where it was Dweezil and kind of a large cohort of Frank's band doing all of his dad's kind of a greatest hits package. It was immense, and what a player Dweezil is! What a fantastic player! So. If you get the chance to see, I think it was filmed at the Roundhouse in London. It's probably up on YouTube. It's well worth tracking down if you can find it. And there's bound to be, as I say, clips on YouTube. It might be on Netflix or something like that. Oh dear me, yeah, Cresta, it's frothy, man. Now there's a blast from the past. Thank you, Johnny. You're a gentleman and a scholar. I only drink on 2 occasions, when it rains and when it doesn't. Indeed, I only drink when there's a Y in the day. Uh, excuse me, I'm just trying to get the rest of this this tin of beer into the glass without kind of causing a flood. I think we've done. It is a bit. It's, as I say, it's this Carling, but it tastes all right for lager. As I said, I'm not really, although you see me drinking lager every Friday evening. Um, I'm not really a lager drinker. I'm more of a kind of ale drinker. Over Christmas, I was on the Theakston's Best, which came in. You know those kind of kegs that you can buy in a supermarket that are like 5 litres in each keg. They're absolutely great, but the thing is, you can only have them during the winter because you got to keep them sort of chilled, and they're too big to go in the fridge, so you got to keep them outside. Um, and yeah, the thing is, 5 litres. Once it's open, you've got to have it within like before it kind of goes bad, really. So it will be just inviting disaster to kind of get, too many of those in for when it's not a special occasion like Christmas. Mind you, me and my mate Jem, who was here at Christmas, we went through 5 of those 5-litre kegs between us over 2 days. Oh, that was some good drinking that day. Those days. Where are we? Let's just have a little bit of a look up in the chat, see what I've been missing. Well, I've been thoughts on Gibson SG standards. I don't tend to get on with SG guitars of any type. It's not even the neck dive thing that gets me with them, because that's easy enough to cure. You just sit down and wear a strap, and you can get around that. For me, it's just that everything's in the wrong place. Like, you feel like you need a passport to get to where the volume and tone controls are. They're so far away. And, likewise, you need, kind of a visa to get down to the cowboy cord end of the neck down here. It just doesn't feel like a comfortable or ergonomic guitar to me. I'm sure if I pursued it and played one for a while, I would acclimatise to it, and it would become, everything else would feel weird. But it's just not for me. That's it. Never say never. Where are we? Beer in a box is best, but you need a hand pump. I have been looking at getting one of those kind of what they call beer wolf kind of things. But the thing is that they do a nice pint, I'm told. Where you basically get, it's like a home beer pump. But the thing is that the refills for them are just like ridiculous expensive, apparently. A guitar should be like a good suit. It should indeed. Has anyone painted a guitar with nitrocellulose? Well, plenty of people have. I don't know what you mean, mate. Has anybody on the chat done it? One of my students actually is a French polisher. That's what he does for a living. And he does a lot of guitar refinishing because he's a guitarist, obviously, and he's a French polisher, so he's got like a foot in both camps. And he's done a few, guitars finished in basically doing like a French polish finish, which he's saying it's essentially just a variation of. Please shoot me down in flames if I'm talking rubbish here, but I'm kind of remembering conversations I've had with a French polisher who says that essentially nitro is just a form of French polish, and that's what he does for a living. Finally measured my string height, every string at 1 millimeter. Well, good for you, mate. Yes, I've got a string action ruler somewhere that I can't find for the life of me, which is why you see me using this thing in all the videos, and it just seems to work, so I use that. And 1 millimeter, about 1.5 is usually roughly where my happy zone is. Where are we? The posh fishing family Biggins lately called their son Courtney Biggins. Dudumsh. Yes. Beer in a box, 20 litre, 58 £58 at Beermat Brewery, a Yorkshire Heart Brewery. Okay, well, that's 20 litres at 50. I'll have to do the number crunching on that. But on the face of it, that doesn't sound too bad. Nothing ever beats UK cask conditioned ale, and I go to Munich every year. Yeah, that's it. There is something though about this. Is why I drink lager on a Friday, and on a Saturday, and on a Sunday, often on a Monday. If there's any left, Tuesday. Wednesday's a depressing day, so I might get one then, and then Thursday's almost kind of the Friday, isn't it? So I might have one then. But the reason I drink beer on a lager on a Friday is because there is something about putting a traditional cask-conditioned English ale in a can or a bottle that, for me, just ruins it. It just, all I can taste is the CO2. And funnily, if that doesn't happen when you put it in those kegs. So there you go. Anyway, excuse me. Oh, Mike's in CGS. Sorry I'm late. Sorry I've missed the last few of your live streams, Mike. It's I tend to watch your live shows downstairs on the TV, and wifey's been commandeering it for like Coronation Farm and Emmerdale Street and stuff, which is highly out of order. But you know, you don't like to say anything, do you? Well, I don't get away with saying anything anyway. But nice to see you here, mate. Hope you're doing well. Were Dan Electro guitars the cheap guitars of the past? Well, yeah, pretty much. You know, they were made from essentially hardboard, weren't they? You know, just made cheaply out of cheap materials to be cheap guitars. And then Jimmy Page started using them, and suddenly they got that kind of cool connection, and they became, you know, desirable. The modern ones are still kind of made, I guess, to a rough approximation of how they used to be made back in the day, but you know, but the tolerances and the kind of quality control is somewhat better these days. I played one, oh gosh, a couple of years ago. One of my students brought one, and you might have seen the video where I did it, blue thing with a couple of lipstick tube pickups in it. And it played fine and sounded like, well, it sounded, you know, exactly like you expected Dan Electro to sound, sort of somewhere between a Gretsch and a Telecaster. A very, very resonant, very kind of lively guitar. And it's just the aesthetic of it for me that kind of puts me off. They are a bit of a love or hate Marmite kind of look to them. And for me, it just didn't kind of win me over. I was thinking, well, maybe when I see one in the flesh, you know, would get one, and it just felt because essentially they are built to a cheap design. It just had a bit of a cheap feel to it and a cheap look to it. But you know, I understand that many people love them, and you know, hey, it's differences like that make the world go around, isn't it? I find feeler gauges easier to use than string height rulers. Yeah, to be honest with you, I mean, usually I don't even bother looking at the string height with a ruler. It's something I've noticed more than once. You can have a guitar that is absolutely set up perfectly by the numbers, and it still feels a bit meh. I prefer, when I'm doing setups on my own guitars, to set them up by feel. I set them up so they feel right. About the only thing I tend usually to measure all the time is like use a radius gauge to set the bridge saddles, like on guitars where you can set the individual bridge saddle height. That's about all I do. But even then, I can usually set the guitar up by feel so that it's pretty much right when I measure it with a radius gauge. So it's if the guitar feels right, it doesn't matter what it measures like. Basically, is what I'm saying. Just get the guitar so that you've got an action that feels comfortable for you, and you've not got any buzzing strings, and you're not got any choking out, and that's it. That's all I usually aim for. And sometimes, that doesn't kind of actually mesh with what the numbers actually say. So there you go. Craig saying, I've had my Gordon Smith for over a year now. It was great when I bought it, but now it's worn. I've set it up to my liking. I think it's the best guitar I've ever had. You know what, Craig? You've given me gas again. As you know, I've had 2 Gordon Smith guitars, and the last one, I don't regret selling the last one because it's gone to a good home. Bottleneck Bob, who isn't in tonight, he must be busy. Bottleneck Bob's got my old GS 1.5. But I found when I got Blondie here that I simply wasn't playing Gordon anymore, and it was like having 500 quid hanging on the wall. So Bob bought the guitar from me, and it's gone to a good home, and he's absolutely loving it. But I do find myself straying onto the Gordon Smith website every now and again and specking up another one. I just do. So we shall see what happens. Again, it comes down to that thing of like this is January. This is the tax return month, and I'll have to see what sort of tax bill I get, and how much money's left over in the kind of the old Swiss bank account afterwards. The Dan Electros kind of end the Tonewood debate, don't they? Says Peter Johnson. Here's the thing about Tonewood, right? It tends to be a very polarizing thing, and I've always thought it's more nuanced than that. Okay, take 2 guitars, right? Take a Gibson Les Paul Standard, and then take a Gibson ES335. If the only thing that is making the sound of an electric guitar is the scale length, the hardware, and the pickups and the electronics, then a 335 and a Les Paul Standard will sound identical. But we know that they don't. So there's obviously something going on beyond the electronics in an electric guitar that is influencing the tone. My personal theory is that it's not about the species of wood. Ash sounds like this, alder sounds like that, and mahogany sounds like that. I don't kind of get too into that. For me, it's how dense the wood is, and how much it resonates. That yes, if the pickups are mounted into the guitar, and if that guitar is resonating, then the pickups are going to resonate and vibrate as well, and that is going to have an effect on the tone. That's as in-depth and scientific as I've got about it. But just from experience, we know that a 335 with identical electronics sounds different to a Les Paul. So therefore, there is something beyond the electronics that is influencing the tone of the guitar. And that is, I think, well, as far as I've got into it. And Dan Electros, I think, sound bright and kind of lively and resonant simply because there's a lot of, they resonate a lot, and therefore the pickups that are mounted into the body of the guitar will resonate, and that will, their relative movement in relation to the strings that affects the tone. Anyway, that's it. I know I'll probably put my head on the chopping block there, and I'm going to get in the when people rewatch this live stream, I'm going to get absolutely flamed in the comments section. But you know what? I'm a big boy. I can take it. Surely the tone is in the fingers. Well, not according to Glenn Fricker, but I was watching his viewers' comments earlier on today, and that was one of the things he was ranting on about. So, through neck, bolt on neck, etc., could affect the tone, couldn't they? Well, yeah, they could. As I say, it all comes down to, for me, if the tone of the electric guitar is a product of the relative movement between the pickups and the strings, if the pickups are moving, slightly vibrating a little bit because they are resonating, because they're mounted in a body that is resonating, then that is going to affect the tone. That, to me, that is self-evident. So, and as I say, 335 Les Paul, identical electronics but sound different. So there you go. A French polisher is a euphemism, I'm told, for what I can only guess at. Go easy on the crack, John. Yes. It does sound like a euphemism, doesn't it? Having a bit of a polish. That is a particularly British saying, or maybe a European saying, for giving yourself a polish. Well, it's... I'll leave it to your imagination. Anyway, CGS saying they're steady. What's this about Gary? I've got to put a Gary Moore comment up on the screen, haven't I? Gary Moore said in an interview they should resonate even when unplugged, so it's in the wood. Yeah. I mean, it's something I've noticed. Electric guitars that sound loud and bright and resonant acoustically do tend to sound, kind of big and full when plugged in. I think there's also a kind of a tactile thing as well. If when you're playing a guitar, an electric guitar, and you can feel that the guitar is alive, you can feel the vibrations of the notes that you're playing, as you're playing it, then I think that affects how you play. It's the whole sort of debate about, string through Telecasters as opposed to top loader Telecasters. Do they sound different? Well, probably if you measure them scientifically, I'll bet there's not a lot of difference. But a string through Telecaster feels stiffer and tauter and more kind of like it's got more fight back to it, which means that you dig in harder and play harder, and that will affect the quality of the tone. So I think it's one of those things that it's difficult to measure scientifically because you don't play scientifically. When you're playing, it's the fleshy organic bit that's sat behind the guitar has a big impact on the tone, and that can't be approached scientifically. Anyway, chaps, we're coming up to an hour, and I've got a curry on the way, so I'm going to love you and leave you and say once again, thank you one and all, everyone, for turning up and watching a fat, bald northern gobshite talk cobblers for an hour. I enjoy it as much as you lot seem to. It is one of the highlight of my week, to be honest with you, and I'm just blown away that you keep on supporting me doing this, and I'll keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, I'm going to say, time, gentlemen, please.